Someone's going to be like, Amanda, it's a kid's movie. You don't need to take it this seriously. But I disagree. I believe the kids deserve good movies. That's it. That's my intro. Hi, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment, and this is Hermes, my dog. He probably will not stay here the entire time I'm filming because he's a brat. Since we're talking about Clifford, I figured I should show you my puppy because this movie. What's the point of me having a channel where I get to literally talk about whatever I want if I can't take kids' movies too seriously? And again, like I said in the opening, I think that kids deserve good movies. Am I wrong? Are you gonna look at me and tell me that I'm wrong, Hermes? But first off, before I do anything, because I know he's gonna squirm and get off my lap in literally 2 seconds, I love you. I love you so much, okay? I love you. I let you eat my hand, okay? But I'm also not a fucking idiot, okay? So I'm not going to wish that you and I could be big and strong and that no one could hurt us because apparently that's how you get a giant puppy on your hand. And I don't want to be ran out of LA like I have the fluffy Godzilla, okay? So I love you, but you're going to stay small. Back in January, I did an episode of the Mike, and Oscar podcast where we talked about movies that we were expecting to be bad that were going to be released in 2021. That being Old, which I was right, it was horrible. And then Cruella, which I was proven wrong by. I do think that Cruella was a surprisingly good movie. I was expecting it to be just a complete total mess and a half and a Hot Topic cash grab. And it was actually a fairly decent movie. Go check out my review of both of those movies down below. My other movie that I wanted to scream about on this episode of Mike, and Oscar was Clifford the Big Red Dog, because at the time, the only thing that had been released was the holiday teaser where it showed Clifford next to literally other full-size dogs, I think, and how horrible the dog looked, one, but also the fact that he just looked like a giant golden retriever puppy. And if you, like me, know anything, Hermes, what are you doing? Stop it. He literally chewed up the couch earlier. See, right here, chewing up the couch. One of the things I'm going to complain about. This is Hermes. He is 6 months old. He just got his balls clipped. Okay, he's not super happy about it. But also, I am familiar with puppies, which means I am familiar with how Clifford would be acting the entirety of this movie. Because one of the things that I was complaining about, what is on you? One of the things I was complaining about this movie was how Clifford is a giant puppy. If you're at all familiar with Clifford lore, okay, you would know that Clifford was a regular size puppy. If anything, he was the runt of the litter. And then he grew into a big puppy, which again, they decided to mess with that in the movie because apparently that's not riveting enough. So they instead had magic and the power of love, which implies that literally no other person in New York loves their dog enough. But they also, again, to get rid of that, they have the magic aspect of it, which is, okay, I'm going in circles. Anyway, I screamed about Clifford before, and I was right. This movie is not good. If you want to go and listen to my episode of the Mike, and Oscar podcast where we talk about the dog from hell with Swell, because they always like doing puns with my name, go ahead and check that out. I will have it linked below. Me and Mike Chu were like in the same boat. We both did not like this movie. Mike one was like, this is a fun movie. And I went for his jugular like I always do because friends don't let other friends compliment bad movies. I'm convinced he's in Big Clifford's pocket. Let me tell you about the plot of Clifford. The movie follows Emily Elizabeth, who's 12 years old. She's in the 6th grade. And I miss this part, okay? But she's the new kid in school. For some reason, her mom is British. And then she has her uncle Casey, who's played by Jack Whitehall, who for some reason in this movie is not British. And there's a whole thing about why he's not British, even though in real life he's actually British. And I'm sorry, Jack Whitehall, I don't know why you took this job. I don't know what you thought you were getting out of it, but these kids acted circles around you the entirety of the movie. I don't know if you have the Chris Pratt deal where you saw someone get murdered by a producer or something, and that's why you keep getting all these movies and all that. I don't know what's going on there, but this was not the move for you, career-wise. Her mom is British. She's also working as a lawyer, I think, and she's the new kid in school. The mean girl calls her food stamp because she's apparently the only kid on scholarship at this like really rich prep school. Unless I missed something, I'm fairly certain they're not actually broke. Like, I don't know, because I'm short or I'm on scholarship. I don't know what the deal is. Like, her mom is like concerned and like confused why they call her food stamp. Her mom's like, you're different. And being different is good. Because she's short, I'm missing something. Because she's new, I get that. And Mike in the podcast was like, all kids have to be, there has to be an underdog character. There always has to be. Okay, give us something then. This kid was literally just a new kid. That's it. And then the guy who's like interested in her, the little boy who is like her classmate and her friend throughout the movie, and who's like, has like this kind of adorable crush. It was fun. She knew his name at one point. He screamed, you know my name? He's shorter than her. So I'm like, okay, that's not a thing, I don't think. Also, his dad is rich as shit. So it's like, What's going on? They didn't do a good job explaining why she was somehow the underdog or different. Going about her day, she's friends with everyone in the neighborhood. She's collecting cans. There's multiple jokes about condensed milk and drinking condensed milk. Not sure who thought of that. And then we have Uncle Casey. Uncle Casey lives in a van, but her mom is going to Chicago for a thing. She tries to get out of it. She can't. She's looking for a sitter for Emily. She's like, anyone but Uncle Casey, because Emily does not like Casey because apparently he lost her on the subway. Casey comes anyway because she couldn't find anyone else to watch Emily. First day they're walking to school, they pass a tent in the park. It's right outside the school. It's an animal tent, okay, for exotic animals. And Casey is just like, I don't want to, no, you have to get to school. And she like gives him the puppy dog eyes so they go inside. There's all these animals in there. It's like, is that a really small giraffe or a really big hyena? I don't know. I won't know until I call him a joke. We're introduced to Bridwell, and Bridwell is like the magic dude. He also, oh my God, I totally skipped the opening. I skipped telling you guys about the weirdest coldest cold opening I think I've ever seen in a kid's movie. Oh God. I honestly think Doolittle had a better cold opening because it was a mess and a half, but at least it was something. We are introduced to Clifford in the cold open. He has a regular mom and regular puppy siblings, and then he's just a red puppy. Looks like shit, but he's a red puppy. Side note, Hermes, as soon as I get you to listen to me, we're turning you into a doggy superstar, okay, in Hollywood. That's just what's happening. Because I'm convinced that if no one in Hollywood, side note, when I'm complaining about the CGI dog looking horrible, I'm not insulting the CGI artists or the people who are doing like the special effects art for him or all that, because I know that they are treated shit in this industry. I'm mainly pissed at any producer or director or literally anyone who watched this movie and was like, the dog looks fine. No. When the whole point, the point of your movie is the giant red dog. I expect the giant red dog to not look horrible. Am I wrong for expecting the giant red dog? Well, actually, you kind of have him as like the side character. The cold open is his mom comes in, and I'm fairly certain the mom dog is the only real dog in this whole scene. I don't know why they couldn't just have puppies, regular golden retriever puppies, but the CGI ones, I'm convinced no one who like planned this or accepted this has ever seen a dog move ever. I don't know why their shoulders kept rippling really weird. Like he was like contracting his shoulders constantly, but also it was like the hunch on his back. Made no sense. Then all of a sudden the pound guys show up and they take the dogs and they dismiss Clifford. And they're like, Clifford goes and like cries and like claws at the door after his mom and all that. That never comes back. We're just abandoning off the pound. You know, it's like, that never comes up again. It's like we just traumatize every child in this theater. What about Clifford's mom? Do we not care about Clifford's mom? That's where she finds Clifford. Bridwell finds Clifford trying to be a pigeon in the park. And aside from the fact that Clifford is a puppy that's like red like a lobster, nothing is different. It's not until Bridwell like gives him magic that he becomes able to be magical. That's what it seems like. Emily Elizabeth goes into the tent and is like looking around, and she's like, oh, we're not looking for a pet. And Casey's like, she's not going to pet. Then he's like, oh, we'll go up the stairs. And then that's where Clifford is chilling on a pillow, and he's so little. And I'm sorry, the red from Clifford is like basically grafting over her. Like it's like I don't know how else to explain it other than like the shading of red is not, it's not like it's reflected onto her hand from like the light. No, it's like it just bled over onto her arm or whatever. And I don't know what happened here. But that's what happened. And she's like, he's so cute. Can we keep him? And he's like, no. And Casey is like, thank you for helping me crush my niece's dreams. Thank you for that. They leave, go to school later that day. She gets bullied again, gets home later that day. And her backpack's moving. Clifford's in her backpack. Apparently he was there all day. She did not notice. But she's like, okay, we'll keep him. He's fine. He'll stay here. And Casey's like, we're taking him back in the morning. But for tonight, you'll keep him. Emily Elizabeth is like sad and crying. And like, apparently some kid was filming how she had like a bag of cans for the can drive. It like tore all over. I don't know why anyone was filming, why anyone would have that angle. But apparently they made it into a GIF with emojis and put it online. And she's crying over that. Kids are mean, but I feel like they could have been meaner. That's like not enough. I'm sorry. If we're gonna depict bullying, I just think there's better ways to do it. So she's like holding Clifford and crying, and like he's being very cute. This dog listens far too well for a puppy. Side note, do you know I barely have this dog knowing sit and lay down. He barely knows his name. He barely knows come here. or he does and he just chooses to ignore me. There's no way this dog would be listening. And then also he's just giant. My whole thing with this movie is that it could have been such a killer horror movie and it just wasn't, like Cujo times 20, you know, and we just didn't get that. But anyway, she like is holding Clifford and crying and is like, I wish we could be big and strong and no one could hurt us or something like that. And she cries and a tear falls. And then it cuts to Bridwell just standing outside. Why do you know where this little girl lives, Bridwell? What are you doing? Did you follow them? It's really creepy. I hate this. Side note, later on in this movie, his friend dies and they think Bridwell, it's a whole thing. He's like so casual about the fact that his friend died, that apparently it was close enough of a friend that he gifted him his bow tie, that to the point that they thought it was him that died because he had the bow tie. And apparently this little girl who was like being bullied in like the most mild way possible, she needed more help from Bridwell than his friend who was dying in the hospital. She wakes up and like is cuddling whatever with like a blanket and it's actually Clifford's ear and she realizes Clifford is this giant monster now. And it's this whole thing. This dog would have ripped apart this apartment. Puppies explore the world with their mouths, okay? They just put everything in their mouth. I have the scars from this dog to prove it. That's just how they explore. They don't know play yet and all that shit. They don't know like, ouch, you know, they don't know that yet. So this dog should have been biting everything and everyone in sight, especially this giant dog. This dog should have been gnawing on the Empire State Building. 432 Park Avenue should have been his play stick, his little Kong stick or whatever the fuck. That's what should have been happening with this dog. Either Clifford is the most self-aware puppy of all time or Hermes is a fucking asshole. Both could be true. Trying to figure out what the heck the deal is. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go to the vet. They find Owen. Owen comes. And he's like, oh my God, this big dog, go to the vet. They go to Banfield Pet Hospital, really got their feature in this movie, but they go in and it's just a vet visit. You know, it's kind of funny. It's like, here you go, Casey, you take his temperature because I'm not doing it. Because for puppies, they do a rectal thermometer, you know, to like take their temperature because they're dogs. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. They're trying to figure out if they can make him small so that they can keep him again. The vet's like, I mean, there's nothing I can really do. He's healthy otherwise. They go into the waiting room and they're trying to figure out like, okay, well, what if we find Bridwell? Like, obviously, he is the one that gave us Clifford and he was small before. So hopefully if we find him again, he can help us make Clifford small again. We can do that. And the vet tech played by Rosie Perez apparently knows everything about everyone. She's like, are you guys talking about Bridwell? And I'm not giving her crap because this was bad writing in my opinion and weirdly ableist, this whole segment. Also, she knew way too much about these people, which there's no reason she would know these things about these people prior to them getting their pets because she works at the vet office. Bridwell has this whole thing where he like gives people pets based on what they need. And so like this one guy never spoke and then got this pet and then he just couldn't stop talking. And then this other person didn't walk. They got this pet, like would rub person's feet, and then now they're all over the place. Bridwell finds you. It's like, okay, you really can't. Do you have any information? No, we don't know about Bridwell. You can't search him up anywhere apparently because magic. One point they go into the park because Clifford runs out or whatever and starts chasing after, you know, those giant like balls that you can go inside of and run in, and how people don't throw up in those more often, I'll never know. Obviously to Clifford, that looks like a regular ball. So he's like running after it, literally playing fetch with this person inside of a ball. Let him out. And then he goes pee or whatever, but obviously this park is packed, so everyone starts filming. And side note, I do like the thought that everyone was just like, instead of being terrified, is like, oh my gosh, Instagram. You know, I do like that. That's accurate. People are posting about Clifford that the villains of this, I hate this. The villains of this story. This movie is just corporate greed, the movie, but also independent greed. That's fine. Independent wealth is fine. Okay, because the villains of this story are a genetics company, a startup for genetically modified food sources. So basically, they're just doing animal testing because they want to make bigger animals. That's their thing. Or they're trying to figure out the way to feed the world, which in theory, I hear you. In practice, how is this illegal? But they're trying to, they're struggling. They've wasted $400 million in money on this, and they have literally nothing to show for it. But then they find Clifford, or they find the foes of Clifford, and they're like, this dog, because he's big, could be what helps us figure out everything else. So we'll take the dog and we'll experiment on the dog, and that'll solve all of our problems. We'll have money again. It's like, okay, Life Grow, you guys sound insane. They just like think they're going to be able to go and claim this dog is theirs. Their plan is to tag the dog, like they tag all of their other animals, tag Clifford with like a chip that like proves that it's theirs. Property of Life Grow, okay? What happens is one of the neighbors is like trying to fix something and falls. Clifford saves him, catches him. Oh, by the way, in this time, they found out that Life Girl went to their apartment and was like, hi, we're looking for this dog. And landlord's like, I knew I smelled a dog. And so they're evicted while they're gone, which I'm fairly certain you have to give notice before you just evict someone. But again, I'm in LA, not in New York, so I don't know what the laws are over there for evictions. They are like trying to figure out, they're upset, and then Clifford saves the neighbor friend. All the neighbors like, yay, yay, go Clifford. Clifford, you're wonderful. Your dog saved me. Yay. As they're talking, the Life Grow guy comes up to Emily Elizabeth and Casey and is like, hi, is this your dog? You're Emily Elizabeth. Thank you so much for finding our dog. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry he got out, but thank you so much for taking good care of him. Like basically gaslighting the small child. They're just trying to convince her, or he's trying to convince her that Clifford is theirs and he escaped. And it's like, oh, thank you so much for finding him. And she's like, you said he was big when you got him, when he escaped. He was small when I found him. And they're like, okay, this isn't gonna work. Just do it. And so they tag Clifford with the gun thingy. And then Emily is like, run, Clifford, run. Runs, breaks through the door. All the neighbors are helping. Clifford, go in here, like through the deli. And the deli worker or owner is not shocked at all that Clifford tore apart his deli. It's like, I would be screaming about how giant red dogs are not covered in my insurance. I think that would have been fun. They didn't do that. Apparently this startup has like an army of ninjas. They're fighting. Casey's fighting. Everyone's fighting. They finally get Clifford out. Owen, Emily's friend, and Emily and Casey get out, get to the truck, and they go to Owen's house. Owen's place. His dad is apparently rich as hell. Is just super casual about this giant dog being in his $27 million penthouse in New York. But they also have a pug. Clifford tries to eat the pug at one point, but spits the dog out. Again, I think there would be way more chaos from this dog in this movie. And basically, Casey is like trying to explain to Elizabeth, like, look, you want Clifford to be safe. He's like, he'll be safe with me. It's like, no, not if you can't keep him, like, you love him, yeah, but you can't keep him safe here. Life Grow is after him. They're not going to stop trying to get after him now. So the plan is, because again, private wealth is good. Owen's dad is a good guy. I kept waiting for the twist for him to be revealed as the other bad guy, but no, not fun. Basically, he has this compound in China that has staff that I'm sure are totally well paid. It's like, oh, Clifford will love it there. We have the barge set up tonight. Everything's good to go. And Casey is trying to convince Emily Elizabeth that Clifford will be safe to go. And she's like, but that's in China. Like, he's like, China's not that far. She's like, I don't want him to go. And he's like, he has to go. Like, he can't stay here. And it's like, I do think there was another plot here that could have been explored more about how, like, I don't know. I think that, okay, my main thing with like how we could have made this movie better is if we got rid of the magic aspect of him just suddenly being a big boy, and instead you have the slow growth of Clifford over the span of like a couple of time skips, and how they're slowly having to be pushed out of New York because it's just not conducive to having a giant dog in the city. But like, her mom loves him and she loves him, and Casey's here for some reason because they have to give Jack Whitehall his check or somehow. Like they have to kind of try and find a place for Clifford. And I just think that could have been a really good story for kids with messages of like change. And, you know, when you love someone, you kind of have to make sacrifices and all of that. I think there's a lot there. I don't know why we're vilifying evil genetics company. Anyway, they go on the barge. They load up Clifford. She's like, it's going to be fine. I'll come visit you, like whatever. And she's crying and running after him. And they had the dad set up, Owen's dad, kind of creepy. Like he's just standing there. He's not talking, like everything's set up. It's going on the barge. And I don't know. I expected him to be like a huge investor in Life Grow or something. Like you give me this company that's out of money, and then you show me a millionaire or a billionaire, however the flip money, but he tucks his son in at night, so he's a good guy. And you could have had a good reveal here, and then suddenly Owen's an orphan. I don't know. Like you have this company that's out of millions and this millionaire, and I don't know. I just felt like there was a setup there that was never explored or was just abandoned. So what ends up happening is like the next morning they see that Clifford has been recaptured by Life Grow, because basically Life Grow went to the police and apparently was like, this could spread to other species. We could have flying rats. And the cops were like, oh my God, not flying rats. And like immediately jumped in on taking this dog into custody and all of that. So they're like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And her and the neighbors and all of that, the dad's just chilling at home. Owen's dad, the millionaire. It's like, you're your private barge, the tanker that Clifford was on, like, I don't know, you have a lot of money. Shouldn't you be like a little more upset as like a private citizen? Your property was taken from you. Like, I don't know. There's like nothing. Like they just kind of abandoned, like, I don't know. Have you ever seen a rich dude? Have you ever tried to take something that he thought was his? Have you ever tried? Doesn't go well, usually. They go to Life Grow and they break in. They're just able to cut through this gate. And they're doing a press conference about how Clifford's been returned to Life Grow, and they can't wait to see the developments that'll come with Clifford's involvement in their Feeding America. That's their goal. Two of the neighbors are lawyers, so they just walk up and they're like, we'll be a distraction. We got this. And just start saying they're going to start, what about the lawsuit? It's like, nice. My thing here is, this is the same thing I complained about in Old. You can't just do shit. When you're a company like this, there's regulations, there's certifications. Like, you can't just start doing animal testing and suddenly have a big dog without having someone coming at you, you know? Like, you can't just do that shit. So that was my complaint mainly. It's like, okay, it's a kid's movie, fine. No, I have questions. The kids need to know the bureaucracy bullshit we all have to deal with. Then they break in. They're able to do a magic trick, no problem, to get inside. And then it's like a false alarm because no one's actually watching the cameras or something, or they can't rewind and see what the deal was. They're able to get in, no problem. Clifford's like literally on a table out. And Emily Elizabeth's like, what's going on? Are you okay? And he like comes to and then is not groggy at all, which I do think it would have been funny if he was like super doped up and drugged. Because like Hermes just had his balls removed. Anesthesia lasts a long time and he's a little dog. Big dogs like that, they probably had to use like 4 gallons or something insane of anesthesia to like get him knocked out for their creepy geneticist animal testing that they were doing. A lot of really weird adult themes and dark themes in this kids movie. And then we're just supposed to act like nothing happened. Emily Elizabeth basically rides Clifford, gets on Clifford's back and runs out of the way. And again, even though we're in New York, there's never traffic ever. Okay. Again, we're giving bad expectations to children about New York. What's going on here? They think there's no traffic. You can just ride your giant dog through the streets willy-nilly. Do a high-speed chase on a dog, no problem. Anyway, they get to the park, find Bridwell. Emily Elizabeth is like, Clifford, go drink from that dunk tank, even though there's a child literally sitting in the dunk tank. Anyway, and it's like, you have to make him small again. They're after him. And Bridwell's like, I didn't do it. It was you. Like, you needed him to be big, so he's big. Bridwell, the hell? That's not helpful. Stop it. Then the cops come and there's like this whole standoff surrounding them. Side note, something that I thought was interesting was that pretty much there were no big dogs in this movie. Like aside from Clifford, all other dog breeds that are shown in this movie are medium to small breed dogs, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if they were doing that to try and like make him seem bigger or something. Cause there's a lot of other dogs in this movie, but they're always really small breeds or medium sized breeds. But I just thought that was interesting. Like the only big dog that we saw was Clifford's mom, which again, we just abandoned this plot line of them being at the pound. We're just abandoning that. So then we have Emily Elizabeth does like a full speech with Clifford behind her. Giant dog, tiny girl. She's talking about, I know how it's different. Everyone's different. Like this really, the empowering speech. Or it's supposed to be. I was like rolling my eyes in the theater. I felt bad. I was like, there are some kids here who's like really getting a lot out of this. And I'm just like, oh, really? How different are you really? Like, she's like, I know you all know what this feels like. And it's just, I don't know. I felt like it could have been different, but somehow the speech is enough for everyone to be like, you can keep your giant monster dog in New York, where I'm fairly certain we already have a housing crisis. Apparently that's no big deal. Her landlord is there and is like, this is why you don't break the rules. It's like, what the fuck? And the cops are like vibing with it. They're like, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe it's just different and we should just let him go. And then, of course, the Life Grow people are just like, no, that dog is ours. Here you go, officer. Scan his chip. That dog is property of Life Grow. It's like, you didn't do this earlier when you were abducting the dog. They go to scan the chip. And this is where me and Mike, one on Mike, and Oscar, were disagreeing. I thought Bridwell did it. He thinks that the assistant to the Life Grow guy, who he was being a dick to the entire movie, is the one who changed it. Because originally, the microchip in Clifford would have said, property of Life Grow or belongs to Life Grow with the ID card or whatever. I thought Bridwell did it because Bridwell, Emily Elizabeth is like shocked that it says Emily Elizabeth Howard. That's not it. Whatever her last name is. It says her full name on the Clifford thing. It's like, no, this dog belongs to Emily Elizabeth. And everyone cheers. It's like, still a giant dog. Leash your dogs. We're in a park. Come on. And she goes up to Bridwell and she's like, Bridwell. And he's like, oh, technology. It's almost like magic. Isn't that right? He did like a weird, it was Bridwell. Mike 1 is wrong. Okay. Mike is wrong. Mike is wrong. I'm right. It was Bridwell. Anyway, the assistant, I quit, and like drops her stuff. And then the other guy who's like the kiss ass is like, I'll never leave you, sir. And he storms out. Lifegirl probably was having sanctions brought against them. There's some lawsuits. There's several probably because of all this. The cop at one point is like, you'll be getting a bill from the city for all of this. And it's like, geez. That's it. So yeah, she got to keep Clifford. They were like, let's get a group photo together. And Casey gets on Clifford's back. So everyone's like, just get on Clifford's back. And then they see the ball. And then Clifford takes off with Casey on him. And then we get an animated sequence that's kind of in the vein of like the actual books for Clifford. And Casey got a job as an artist and he's drawing and all of that with dogs. And he's drawing and they got to keep Clifford and they got to stay in the apartment because he's helping the landlord now. Clifford is. And of course, they can make another 17 of these movies because if it makes money, that's the plan. Again, I really think that there was a way they could have made this that was still a kid's movie. I get it. You can't have the Cujo-esque Clifford movie that I want. I understand that. I always think it's fun in horror movies when to the person doing the thing, it's like cool, romantic, nice, and then it's horrific. And like a puppy, horrific, giant puppy thinks he's playing. He is murdering people left and right. I think that would be fun. I get we can't do that because kids are going to go see it. So again, I do think there was something that could have been done here without the magic aspect of it. That was a gradual Clifford growing big over time. Because again, Clifford is still a puppy and he's already huge. He's going to get bigger. Golden Retriever puppies get huge. I do think that there was a way that they could do this that was like Clifford getting big over time and having him be more of a focus than just like genetics company is after Clifford. So this is like, I don't know, maybe, I guess it's not fun for kids or for a studio with the kids in mind because it's not as cut and dry for the good and evil. But I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of other, stories that could have been told with Clifford being big over time and then, change instead of starting with like, oh, she's the new kid at school. And it's like, no, there's a lot of leaving and like, oh, hey, this giant dog is not conducive to a tiny New York apartment, even though this apartment is huge, even for New York standards. It's like a 2-bedroom. It's huge. I don't know. I just think there was a different story that could have been told here. Change and all of that and kids having to deal with change and Emily Elizabeth having to realize like, I love Clifford, but like I love school. I love my friends. And it's like, okay, well, you need to kind of figure out, we either need to find a place for Clifford to go that's better for him, or we need to leave so you can be with Clifford and take care of him because he loves you. Like, I do think there's a different story there. But, did you see Clifford? What's a children's movie that you took too seriously? What's a children's movie that you think is actually good, that you would love to show your children and or other children? And I shouldn't be talking about children. Every time I talk about kids or the potential of having kids, you all think I'm pregnant. It's very odd. No one's been near me. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why you all think I'm pregnant all the time. I have my dog child and that is it. But anyway, let me know. Comment down below about the previous questions. Don't forget, I have a podcast, the Swell Shenanigans Podcast. Don't forget I have merch. Check that out. Linked down below. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, that'll be listed down below. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be it. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. It's not that I don't think I'm right. I know I'm right. Kids deserve good movies. I'm right. Thank you, Alan, Braden, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Cody, Colton, Crash, PC, Destiny, Devin, Dirty One, Dawn, Elliot, M, Beckless, Hopeless, Hollow, Jugger, Ray, Joe, John, M, Jordan, Joseph, Kenny, Kevin, Kim, Kristen, Lamb, Lex, Lisa, Luis, Matt, Matt O, Matthew S, Meme Lord the Red, Michael, Micah Jane, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Prologue, Rob, Robert Ross, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tasha, Stephen, Timothy, Tom, Wendy, Williams, Andre.